Coach, you've told us several times this year that it's never over till it's over. So to sort of exemplify that, what's the nerve factors at the end when you see that thing whittle down?
Yeah, we keep it interesting, that's for sure. I was just going to pull out this first half stat sheet. That looks better. I'm going to keep that on top. Yeah, I mean, I thought the first half, I thought we played terrific at both ends of the floor. We got in transition. We were moving the ball. We were playing unselfish, and started off the second half with good possession, get a three, and then just defensively just didn't get back, didn't get our defense put together, and now we allowed them to play in transition, and they were getting to the rim, and now they were getting everything they wanted for a good portion of that second half. But I told the guys that's hard, though, when you have a big lead like that and then it dwindles all the way down to almost nothing, to still stay composed enough to find a way to make the plays that you need to. I thought a lot of different guys made some key plays, some winning plays, like off of missed free throws. We got 2 offensive rebounds, massive offensive rebounds. So those are the type of things that said, like, good teams find a way, even when it you give away a big lead like that. Good teams find a way to make sure and come up on top, and we're certainly glad they did that.
What do you say to your team in a situation like that? And is it like, do you kind of have to try to help them keep their heads in it, or is that fully on them? What do you see your role, I guess, as in that situation when it comes to the mental side of it?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, the last thing you want them to do is tense up and freeze in the moment and not stay aggressive. That was our biggest message, was especially offensively, like, guys, we got to stay in attack mode. But it was hard for us when you're not getting stops, and now you're getting pressed, and you got to break the press and then get into something. And they were going a little bit of zone to man, so it just got us a little stagnant, more than a little, to be honest. But thankfully we found a way to make some plays. I thought Powell hit a couple huge threes in that second half. That was monster threes for us.
Coach, yesterday you mentioned that with the emotions of senior day, some players rise up to the occasion. Javon Small had a heck of a first half. Did you see something in him before the game that maybe kind of was a little tell that you were maybe expecting a performance like that from him out of the gates?
Not really. Von's hard to read sometimes. He just he's pretty steady, like, all the time, not too high, not too low. But it was certainly good. When you see him go out there, and you could tell he was being aggressive. Like he was going to do everything he could to kind of get going. And then when he hit a couple, that's always good for us. So. Overall, 25-9 again. Like I said earlier, like, I just hope, people really appreciate the season he had, because it was. I've been doing this a long time. There's only 2 or 3 guys that I can probably name that had a season like this. Where he had to do so much as well on top of it. So, incredible season for him. Regular season. Obviously, we still want to play as long as possible, but it was great to see him go out on top.
You mentioned it, but how impressive is it for Jonathan to hit those 2 threes down the stretch?
Yeah, it was monster threes for us, and he ends up 5 for 8, and that's exactly what we needed, And he's had, some moments this year where he's been terrific, and then he's had a few stretches of games where he hadn't shot it well. So, what I love about Jonathan is he continues to stay confident in himself, and we stay confident in him, like we've talked about all year. Like, he's put in the work, and you get that next one, go ahead and let it fly, and then he did that tonight. But a couple huge ones in that second half.
How big is it going into the Big 12 tournament to have players like that getting hot as well in this time?
Yeah, I think for us, offensively, if we can get multiple guys, Powell or Amani or even Joe, to go along with Javon from just a shooting standpoint, and then the other guys kind of playing within that and finding their, occasional open threes or drives or whatever, that opens up our offense dramatically. And I thought you saw that in the first half. That's what we're capable of doing. Now you're up 22 at half because your offense is rolling along. And when the defense and the offense complement each other, that's the type of halves we can have. But the second half was the exact opposite. So let's scrap that plan.
The changes in the way charge block has been called this year. Is it a surprise to get 4 charges and 5 trips down? Because a lot of those, it's a spin offense is putting their head down, and you haven't been, not just you, but everybody haven't been getting those calls this year.
Right, and I thought they got one at the beginning of it. I think Sincere got called for an offensive charge, so I thought, when you're if you're going to call it, be consistent. I thought they did a good job of that. They called a couple on both ways. So, I thought our guys, did a pretty good job of, doing what they're taught to do. Keep your hands back and keep retreating. And at some point, you wall up. And now if they run you over, it's an offensive foul.
How much of a change is that, though, in the way that you had to teach defense and that a lot of people had to coach? Because in the past, a lot more charges called in those situations.
Yeah, they certainly don't call as many anymore. Most of those are when you're coming from the weak side. They kind of want you just to go vertical now instead of trying to take the charge. But when you're the primary defender on the ball, you still have an opportunity. Like if you're in position and moving the way you need to, you still have a right to that space. And I thought our guys did a good job of just staying between him and the basket.
Coach, you mentioned rebounding earlier. If you look at the stats, obviously rebounding's kind of been a struggle for the Mountaineers this year. But then in that key moment, the missed free throw, and you get a couple of offensive rebounds there. Just how crucial was that moment? I mean, it's a 3-point game at the time.
Yeah, 2 big plays. I mean, 16 offensive rebounds for us, and we put a huge emphasis on it in this game. We thought we could go get some, but none any bigger than the 2 off the missed free throws tonight. So, I think we're now 11 or 12-0 when we out-rebound our opponent. So I don't know why we just don't do that more. Seems like a good strategy. So.
Taking away my next question.
Right. Yeah. I'll tell them tomorrow. Hey, let's do that again.
Coach, when a player like Sincere Harris tonight gets kind of heated or frustrated over a foul call and kind of loses their cool and they come to the bench, do you say anything to them in that moment, or do you kind of let them cool off by themselves? What, as a coach, do you do in that moment?
I think sometimes it's reading the moment. That wasn't one. I felt like he probably needed to just go to the bench for a little bit and cool off. But it's an emotional game. Sometimes there's a time for it, and sometimes there's not. And in that particular case, he got a little fired up, but what we didn't want to do was create more panic and things. So let him calm down and stuff. And then he came back in and was out there competing again. So stuff happens. It was unfortunate. Hopefully something we learn from, or he learns from, that in that situation we can't afford, hey, that's another 2 points and then the ball. So but I respect Sincere's competitiveness every night. So we'll take the good with the bad sometimes.
Darren, Javon mentioned a meeting. I think it was the second meeting that you guys had, and I think it was with the coaches, and how that sticks in his mind. Sort of a get to know each other meeting. Do you think that had something to do with how this team developed and the likes?
Yeah, I think as a player coach and the stuff you have kind of all year long, you have you're more consumed with basketball and the off season, June and stuff, you get to hang out a little bit. But I know sometimes on senior day you don't get to spend as much time with those guys. They have family and things. So I thought it was really important that I got a chance to tell them how much they meant to us as a coaching staff and me personally, for them believing in us and committing to come here when we didn't have much of a roster put together, and those guys have done a lot for us this season.
You wish you had gotten the spot to put Jake in for a minute or two.
Yeah, I would have liked to have done that too. At that one point, I thought we were going to be able to do that, but unfortunately, that didn't work out.
Everybody in basketball wants to play their best going into the postseason. With the roster that you have, you think you're peaking right, or where are you in that regard?
I think our first half is peaking. Okay, we're going to keep working on the second half, but no, I think we're playing pretty good basketball. I mean, it's offensively, which I'm really encouraged about. We hit not a stunning percentage, but hit 12 threes. Probably shot a few too many, 12 for 37. But that's back-to-back games where we've knocked down some shots, and I think that's going to be critical as we go into postseason here. We still got to be able to score, and then defensively we got to be able to put a full 40 together. But sometimes being able to put that full 40 together requires us making shots, so we're not playing in transition all the time. I thought the second half we were in transition, either with turnovers or missed shots on. Felt like about 80% of the possession. So those are the things we got to eliminate if we're going to be good enough defensively to stay in it, and then let our offense come along with it.
Coach, obviously the focus doesn't change once you get to Kansas City, but is there any sense of relief at all that you don't have to go into the conference tournament needing to get 1, 2, 3 wins to to keep moving on?
Yeah, I think probably, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's like we talked about. Like, there's no doubt now. They punched their ticket tonight. They're in the tournament. Now it's postseason play. Let's go play. Let's go try to win a championship down in Kansas City, and then when that's done, let's go play as long as we can. And that's. But that's exciting for them to know, like, hey, they're going to see their name up there on Selection Sunday, and they deserved it. They've earned it, and they left no doubt tonight.
What will that moment feel like for you? First-year guy, Morgantown, first-year guy to Power 5. What will that?
I'll smile when I see that up there. I promise. So, yeah, no, it's. I mean, it's always exciting, and when you make it to that tournament, you're one of, not a lot to be playing in it. So it's certainly an accomplishment to get there. But like I've told our team, like that's not the end game. We want to finish the job, and that means we want to play as long as possible. So. We'll go to the Big 12 tournament, play as many games as we can there, and then when we get ready for the NCAA tournament, it's we're in work mode. We're going to go try and compete and go try to win those 40 minutes for as many of them as we can.
Coach, I know you have the no excuse mentality, but if you were to look back and someone at the beginning of the year would tell you, with all the adversity that you've been through, that you pulled the upset that you did and finished 500 in the Big 12 play, what would your reaction to that be?
I don't think you can really have one because nobody knows what a team is capable of. You put a collection of guys together, like you can say, hey, they're going to be awesome. Hey, they're not going to be awesome. Well, how does anybody know until you actually start working and putting a team together and seeing them come together? That's why I hardly ever talk about wins, losses, expectations from that standpoint at the beginning of the year, because there's so many variables that go into that. There's no way anybody can know, especially on a roster like this year. So I never wanted to limit them on what they're capable of. And like I said, we've had some great moments this year. We've had a few that we felt like we let get away. But overall, I just love that this group's continued to fight and stay together. And we need to continue to do that as we get into postseason play.
I don't know if calm is the right word, but like you've kind of made light of the fact you've been in this situation a couple times, and just thinking off the top of my head, like it seems like Jonathan's made some big threes in similar games, probably in offensive rebounds on missed free throws. Do you find guys know what to do in these spots now? They're not new and they'd rather not be there, but if they're going to be there, they've got experience to find that winning play or avoid that disaster. Yeah,
I think to your point, like Powell's hit a few big ones. I can't remember exact games. I know a couple of them were at home for sure, where we need a big bucket, and he seemed to hit the one that maybe gives us that, takes it from 3 to 6 with a minute to go type stuff. So I think he's very comfortable in that, especially for a freshman. Having been in those situations a few times, he certainly knows that he's got the green light from our perspective, and you need to have that type of confidence in a late game situation, because the last thing you want to do is be tight and second guess yourself.
And then where do you have a feeling about this team? Like you said, you don't know what it's going to be like until you see them come together, but was there a game, a practice, a stretch of play where you thought, the goals that we talked about, yeah, why not? It seems like they're right there.
Yeah, I mean, you saw some of it probably in the Bahamas, where you win a couple big games against really, really good teams. So now you're like, hey, this is what you can do, and then you lose Tucker, shortly after that. So now you're resetting, and then you're able to go to Kansas and win, without Tucker, without Amani, and then come home at Iowa State. So I just think it really comes down to like guys just continuing to believe in one another. That there's every game we line up, we feel like we have a chance to win, and continue to approach it with that mindset.
Darren, how big is it getting the first round bye for the Big 12 tournament?
Well, I think it's huge for us. I mean, especially that 20 games is it's a lot, and with our rotations being a little bit shorter, I think getting that extra day, from a timing standpoint is huge. You've got 20 straight games, no off days, no bye weeks, none of that. So for us to get maybe one extra day where we can kind of get regrouped a little bit, let the legs kind of get underneath us, and now get them fresh and ready, to play on Wednesday. And obviously the goal is to play as many days as possible in a row.
What's bigger with that day of that off day? Is it rest or is it prep in terms of the bye?
Rest, yeah, because we don't really know who we're playing yet. So it's you got two teams that we played one once and the other one twice. So you have a pretty good idea of what they're going to do, and we'll go through that again, more on Monday. Tomorrow will be more just kind of get some therapy and things, and watch the tape from tonight, and then let's get ready on Monday to start to prepare for both teams, and we'll do a little bit of each as we head into Wednesday, and then once we find out who we play, then you can shift that focus.
Darren, what was the post-game locker room like? The post-game locker room?
It was good. I think it probably wasn't as good as it could have been. I think they were pretty disappointed and how that we allowed that lead to slip away. I mean, they were still happy, obviously, but they definitely wanted to play a little differently that second half. But they're excited. They know, hey, we're now we're getting ready for Big 12 play and postseason play, and this is the best time of year. So they'll be ready to go.
Is that maybe good for them to get challenged there at the end and with what's ahead of them?
I don't know. I would probably prefer we didn't have to do that, but maybe it'll work out that way. So we'll say it was good. Yeah, it was good for them. Yeah, we planned it.
Coach, thank you.
Thank you all.